if you're watching this video, you're probably a life path number 11 or know someone that's a life path number 11. And the thing with being a life path number 11 that's quite frustrating is, I think, feeling like you are destined for some form of success. You know that there's something that you really want to achieve. You know that you feel comfortable being in the public almost, in front of people. But no matter what, it just seems to take so long to get there. Do you know what I mean? Like, even from a young age, you feel like you're ready, but most of the time, you're not actually ready, but you feel like you're ready at every stage. And yeah, if you look up the qualities and traits of the life path number 11, you probably strongly resonate with them. I'm a life path number 11 and I strongly resonate with them. And yeah, I felt like I've been ready to kind of step into the position that I'm meant to be in for a long bloody time. But it's only now that I'm kind of like, okay, perhaps some of the write-ups are correct, that you need to reach a level of maturity before you reach your success. And when I say success, I don't want to classify success as anything in particular, because obviously success is up to you and what you perceive it as, but at least, I guess what I'm trying to say by success is your position in this world, your purpose in this world, the sort of destiny that you feel like you're here to fulfill, the message that you feel like you're meant to share. I felt like I've known that sort of every step of the way, but at the same time now looking back, I haven't. And the reason I think it takes us a long time to generate our success as life path number 11s, is because if you know the life path number 11, you know that basically they're almost spiritual teachers. They have a spiritual message, and in order to share that message, I think that the life path number 11 really has to know themselves, or really has to go through a multitude of different transitions, lessons, deaths and rebirths in order to really grasp a full picture of life, and actually life and the meaning of life to them, before they can go and actually share the wisdom that they're meant to share, or share the message that they're meant to share. Like, I say wisdom because they're typically, I think they're spiritual teachers, life path number 11s. And in order to really tap into spirit and reach that level of spirit, the ego really has to be beaten out of you. Like, it really does. And so you might find that as a number 11, you go through so many different things, and all of these individual things are literally like big sticks, and all they're doing is beating your ego out of you. And actually, that's probably the wrong thing to say. I don't want to say beating your ego out of you. They're just beating your ego so that it can learn, and so that it eventually ends up, I call it, in the trench. You're walking this path, right? Blind almost. It's dark. You see a vision, right? First up, you see a vision. It's a beautiful path, and you're walking towards some gates. And beyond those gates is, you get to those gates, and there you go. There's your magical heaven or whatever. And so you set off on the fool in the tarot deck, with a stick on your back, and completely innocent, with this beautiful picture ahead of you of what lies ahead, the spiritual journey, and you stepping out into the role that you're meant to play. But then what happens is you take the first step almost off the cliff, and you're blind to the fact that you're stepping off a cliff, very much like the fool in the tarot, and you fall, and it's dark, and it's like terrible. And everything, you set out with this purpose, and it's all bright and colourful, and then the ego gets beaten out of you along the way. So for me, I went through loads of different things: injuries, difficult relationships, and I had to face my ego, rejection, trying and feeling like I wasn't succeeding. But these things were all to teach me something. And I still think that as a life path number 11, I'll fulfill whatever it is that I'm supposed to fulfill. But if that takes another 5 years to get to what I deem successful, or to my goal, if that takes another 5 years, now I know it's because there's still ego that needs to be beaten out of me before I'm ready to take that position. Because that position requires you to not be in ego mode. And actually, let me just I need to reiterate this ego thing. That position requires you to have paired ego with spirit. Okay, so ego is initially walking spirit sees the path, right? And that's that vision that you get, and it's beautiful. But then spirit at that point you're only able to access it minimally. So it's a vision, do you know what I mean? It's a flash, it's an insight that comes from spirit. But you are in ego because we are human beings. So you walk the path with the ego. The ego becomes the driver, whether you're conscious of it or not. The ego is what's taking you forwards, and you want things that are, you perhaps have a message that comes from spirit that you want to deliver, but your idea of success is coming from ego, or result is coming from ego, if you know what I mean. So your ego walks the path, and your ego has to be beaten down until it kind of sits there and goes like, why am I even seeking this? Like, why? And it lies in the trench and goes, to be honest, I don't know. I give up. Or, you know, like, I'm whatever. I just don't know why I'm fighting, you know? And that's that thing, it lays there and it goes, why am I fighting? And as that happens, spirit comes back. And spirit lifts ego out of the trench and goes, look at all that work that you've done. Look at all of the trouble that you've been through. Look at all the battles that you've had and the beautifully carved path that you have created to here. Look at all that knowledge that you've attained. Look at all of that knowledge that can now become wisdom. And then spirit lifts you up, and then you walk on together. And so it's not about actually necessarily beating the ego out of you. It's about taking the ego into a place at which it's comfortable to let spirit do the walking. So now material goals aren't necessarily an issue anymore. And it's all spiritual goals that you kind of see. And I think that the Life Path 11 has to reach that point through rejection, through failure, through pain, and through suffering, before they can really step into their role as the Life Path 11 or as spiritual teacher. They must face, you know, everything that they must face, like the challenges with being a number one, having one energy, and knowing that they have place. They're not passive. Do you know what I mean? They're not completely passive anyway. They've got the one energy, but then they've got the conflict with the 2-1 singling down to the 2, and then those two energies being quite opposite in nature. Do you know what I mean? One knowing that there is some force, and the other one that's a lot more submissive, masculine and feminine, and having a masculine aspect, but also having a feminine aspect that probably, you know, I don't even want to say it takes over, but they're just muddled, and you know, it's an interesting journey. So in some senses that masculine quality has to be stamped on, and then in other senses that feminine energy also has to be stamped on, and you have to learn to tap into the masculine energy when necessary, but also tame the masculine energy when necessary. And it's this interesting thing, but basically I think that is why Life Path 11s take a little bit of time to get their success. And if you are a Life Path number 11 and you're feeling like you're ready for your success, or wondering why you haven't got it yet, I don't know, drop a comment and let me know if you think that's why. I do think that the ego has to be sort of, you know, beaten down a little bit, and you have to be comfortable with, you know, being beaten, to be honest, and that prepares you for your final task, if you want to call it that. But yeah, so that is what I think about sort of being a Life Path 11, and why it takes so long to get to a point in which, you know, of material success, you know, or outer success, because there is a lot of inner success, you know, the growth and the lessons and the teachings, but for you to fulfill your position, it takes a long time, and a level of maturity. Or for us to fulfill our position, it takes a long time and a level of maturity. So guys, if you like this video, let me know. Drop a comment below. If you're feeling it, drop a comment below. Let's talk about being a Life Path number 11. If you know a Life Path number 11, share it with them if you feel like they might need to see this video. And if you like my content, subscribe to my channel, because I have heaps more to come. I love astrology, energy, everything, analysis, all sorts of things. So yeah, subscribe to my channel if you like the comment. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.